Hey guys, just popping on tonight to talk about a little bit of a different topic than we've been addressing. But I wanted to start with a story so that you guys could see the mental gymnastics that I went through to get to this topic. So I'm driving down the road to work recently, and I'm in the far left lane of a 3-lane road, and there is a gal who's she's in the middle lane, and she's kind of behind me hanging out in my blind spot. And I realize that it's time for me to get over. I have to go over 2 lanes to get into the far right lane so that I'll be prepared to turn into my office complex. So I accelerate and signal, and I wait for the little flashy light to go off, to stop going off in my side mirror so that I know I'm not cutting her off. So I accelerate, I go around her, and then I proceed to get into the far right lane. And I'm just going about my business, doing my thing, listening to my morning worship music, and just trying to prepare for the day mentally. And we come to a stoplight, and I realize that she is in front of me. And I don't recall her getting in front of me. You guys are going to be worried about my driving now. But anyway, I don't recall her getting back in front of me. So I'm sure she just, she sped up and she needed to be in the right lane too, I guess. I don't know. But I'm admiring this rhinestone butterfly on her rear window. So I'm just looking at that, and I just glance over and look, straight ahead where she is. And she is flipping me off. And I was like, I don't even know what to do with that. Normally I just kind of laugh, but I didn't want to laugh because she could see me laughing, and I wasn't trying to start something or, be mean. So I just kind of shrugged it off and went on about my day. But it got me to thinking, people are really struggling right now, some more than others. And maybe this gal is always a jerk. Maybe that's just her nature, Lord forgive me, but maybe that's just who she is. But it did get me to thinking that, there are a lot of people who are struggling, and what they've been dealing with may be anxiety, and now they've been in that anxiety for so many weeks that it's morphed into something that looks more like depression. And that makes a lot of sense, actually, because anxiety and depression are bedfellows. They love to hang out together, and one can easily turn into the other. So what I wanted to do tonight is talk about some what I call antidotes for depression. And I have several. I'm going to go through and just to give you guys some ideas, pick and choose the ones that work for you. But if you're struggling with some depression and, like a lower mood right now, or losing interest in things, not feeling super motivated, whatever the case may be, you may be dealing with a little bit of depression. And I just wanted to share some ideas for overcoming that. So I do have some notes I'm going to be looking at here. I'm not, playing a game on my phone. I'm actually looking at notes just so I don't miss anything, because there are several of these that I wanted to share with you guys. So first and foremost, when I do an intake, I'm talking with people about all aspects of their history. So obviously their psychological history, but also their medical history. And what I've found is that a lot of times there are medical conditions that will look like psychological conditions. And sometimes they're both, and one can lead to the other and so forth. But a lot of times medical conditions can present as psychological distress of some sort. So what I like to do is recommend that patients get a medical evaluation to rule out any possible underlying medical issues that might be contributing to their depression. And outside of situational things where, depression would make a lot of sense or be the norm or what have you. But I will recommend that they talk to a doctor and just rule out various things that could look like depression. So thyroid issues, low testosterone in both men and women, female reproductive hormones that are off kilter, iron, vitamin deficiencies, any number of different things that might be contributing to their low mood. Vitamin D is a big one, and believe it or not, those of us who live in Arizona, surprisingly, a lot of people in Arizona actually have vitamin D deficiency. And that doesn't make a lot of sense on the surface because we get more sunshine than I think any other state. But we cover up. We put sunscreen on, or we put long sleeves on, or we just don't go out when it's like an oven outside. So vitamin D can surprise you. And I always say D stands for depression. So that's one of the things that I'll suggest that people take a look at. Because at the end of the day, I can give you all the psychological strategies and tactics and techniques and everything. And if you're fighting a medical condition, you're going to be frustrated because you're not getting better, and it's because we're fighting an uphill battle. So we just need to be clear about what's going on. So a medical evaluation is generally a good place to start. Next is exercising for endorphin release. So all you need is about 20 to 30 minutes of exercise at a given point to release endorphins. And those are the free and legal happy chemicals, the body's natural antidepressants that come out to play whenever we get some physical exercise. So just 20 to 30 minutes is all that takes. And it doesn't have to be intense exercise, just move your body for 20 minutes. Next is making sure that you're hydrated. Those of you who know me or have worked with me, you know how big of a fan I am of making sure you get adequate water intake. I believe a lot of people in the world would feel a lot better if they were mindful of their water. And the formula for that is 1/2 ounce per pound of body weight. So again, 1/2 ounce of water per pound of body weight. So cut your weight in half, drink that many ounces. That's really what it comes down to. If you drink caffeine or alcohol, you may need more water because those are diuretics. They pull water out of the body. And then if you live in an arid climate like we do, where it's dry and hot, or if you're working outside or whatever, then you may need additional water. But the general rule is 1/2 ounce per pound of body weight. So next is making sure that you get enough sleep. So before the invention of the light bulb, humans would average about 10 hours of sleep. And after the light bulb was invented and carrying through to modern day, the average is closer to 6, which is a huge difference. And I'm not saying we only need 6 or have to get 10. The average is 8, and that's based on a range of 7 to 9. So you want to do your best to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Some people just don't need that much, and other people need more. There's nothing wrong with that. But in general, the average is between 7 and 9 hours. And if you don't get enough sleep, you will tend to have low energy and fatigue. And no matter who you are, prone to depression or not, you may experience low mood. So that can look like depression. Or if it is or if you do have depression, a lack of adequate sleep and upsetting those circadian rhythms significantly can actually make depression worse. All right, next is socialize. So this one is a little tricky right now with the coronapocalypse that's going on. But socialization is one of the best things that we know of to guard against psychological distress and psychological illness and issues. So we're not necessarily able to hang out with friends like we did before all of these restrictions and so forth, but you can still socialize. You can socialize with your family members by playing a game instead of just going through the motions and doing your thing. At the end of the day, play a game or do something different, shake up the routine a little bit. You can also socialize with your friends virtually. I've had people do everything from like virtual happy hours to like morning coffee routine with their girlfriends. Some people have used it as an opportunity to get together with friends they've been out of touch with for a really long time. So it becomes like a high school reunion or a college reunion for them. So when we can get back out more actively and not worry about people turning us in or the neighbors reporting us, that'll be a lot easier. But there are ways to socialize virtually that can still lift your mood, and it might surprise you. All right, next is creating things to look forward to. So this is one of the things I think personally that guards against depression really well. And that is having something to look forward to, something to anticipate, something that you're excited about. So it may be something huge like a vacation or something like that. Or it could be that you create, Wednesday is family game night. So we make dinner together and do games, but that's like a fun highlight. Everybody's happy. Everybody's having a good time. The kids aren't fighting. It's a fun thing that you can look forward to. It can also be just going on a walk. That's your daily routine, or going on a walk with a spouse or one of your children, going on a walk as a family. Church on Sunday together, right now maybe watching that virtually, but just sitting down and looking forward to what you're going to learn about God's Word and how you can implement that in your life. So whatever it is that, brings you joy or happiness or creates some excitement for you, just building those things in to look forward to. And again, we're limited right now, but you can still do that virtually. All right, next is making sure you're eating enough calories. So, surprisingly, a lot of people aren't getting enough calories, and it actually contributes to low mood. So, you have to think about it like food is to the body like gas is to a car. So, food is fuel. Say that 3 times fast. Food is fuel for our bodies. So if we're not putting in enough fuel, we're going to be sluggish. We're not going to be able to go very far. All of those things that might happen to a car if it's, running on fumes, so to speak. So when you get enough calories, then that lifts your energy. And you also want to be mindful of things like caffeine and carbohydrates. So I'm not saying you have to give up your coffee or don't eat carbs. I'm not advocating any kind of particular lifestyle, but just be mindful of those things because caffeine and carbs both will cause an uptick in your energy, but what goes up must come down. So when that comes down, for some people, it can cause mood issues. Some people are relatively unfazed by it. But again, just giving you guys some ideas about different things that you might consider that could be contributing to low mood. So just being mindful of caffeine and carbs and, not living on either or both of those. And you can offset the impact of carbs on the blood sugar and that spike by eating protein with them as well. So way beyond my realm to talk specifically about nutrition and dietary programs and stuff like that. Obviously consult with a nutritionist if you have more questions, but just some things that I've seen in the past 20 years, kind of deciphering what's going on for people. These are some things that rose to the surface that might be causing an issue. Okay, next is staying away from what I call downers. So that would be alcohol and THC. And both of those things, and many others, but both of those things are central nervous system depressants. And so in some people, they can cause depression. Sometimes with alcohol, maybe it's the next day, but alcohol and marijuana both can lower mood again in some people. For other people, again, relatively unfazed by it. But just something to be mindful of. Those are technically central nervous system depressants. Okay, next, if your depression, anxiety, those things are related to feeling overwhelmed, then break down your tasks into smaller chunks. And so you can make a list of goals and then set smaller objectives under those goals and work toward the smaller objectives so that you're not so overwhelmed. And then eventually, you reach your larger goal. But it just makes it's a mind game, really, honestly. But it just makes it a little easier to manage cognitively so that you're not so overwhelmed that you procrastinate or don't, get going on things. And this is a way to just kind of get started and chip away at some of those things. And I always tell people, look, Rome wasn't built in a day. So your disastrous office or your pigsty of a house isn't going to be cleaned in a day either. So cut yourself some slack and just start chipping away at those larger tasks because the overwhelm can lead to anxiety, can lead to depression. So they all hang out together, unfortunately. All right, next is talking to a professional. So, of course, I'm biased because that's what I do. I think everyone needs a therapist at one point or another. But specifically for depression, you can learn coping skills for depression. And there are self-help books and things like that, podcasts, various different things that address depression. Obviously, those are good too. If those things don't seem to be doing it for you, then maybe you want to up level and talk to a therapist and try to get some more ideas about coping skills. And then last but certainly not least, consider consulting someone in another field of medicine. So a naturopath for natural remedies to help lift mood, an acupuncturist to treat the depression, or a psychiatric provider who can prescribe medication after a full evaluation and workup, prescribe medication to help lift your mood. And there are all different kinds of antidepressants that target different chemicals. For some people, they need serotonin addressed. Other people need dopamine. Others, it's norepinephrine. That's probably a discussion unto itself. But a psychiatrist can give you information about that and just let you know what your options are. Just because you go in and talk to somebody doesn't mean you have to start on a supplement or a medication or whatever. It's just getting information so that you are aware of what your options are. And that whole knowledge is power thing. And getting ideas about just how to proceed, make an informed decision, and then figure out how you're going to proceed. So that's what I have in terms of some antidotes for depression. Let me say, if the depression ever gets to the point where you're feeling hopeless and like life is not worth living and you're thinking about killing yourself or hurting yourself significantly, not the answer. This is temporary. Whatever it is that you're going through, it's temporary. It will pass. But there are times where things can get really dark and people really struggle. Obviously, I would say, talk to someone and get some professional help in that situation. But I also wanted to share the phone number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And this is good to have for yourself if you're prone to depression, obviously, but also it's good to have to share with other people. A lot of people are struggling right now. This is an unprecedented time in our world with COVID-19, and this is just a good idea to keep on hand. Again, I'm a little biased, but I think everyone should have access to this number because you never know. So, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and the number is 1-800-273-TALK. So 800-273-TALK, which is 8255. And through that lifeline, it's staffed 24 hours. And through that lifeline, you can talk to a counselor immediately. So I wish you all well. Hopefully these antidotes have provided some ideas for you to help lift your mood if you're feeling depressed, or if you're just trying to stave off depression. These are great ideas to try and make sure certain things are in sync for you. As always, if you guys have any questions or if there are any other resources I can provide, you can go to my website, which is drbellingrot.com, and go under the resources tab, and there will be books on various mental health topics that you might find helpful.